She was just consumed with jealousy.
I can't handle this. I'm just going to kill the thing that's making me feel this way.
There's 2 gunshots. He broke up with you a year prior to this. And they see Caitlin Armstrong on the security cameras boarding a plane to Costa Rica. I physically cannot believe that this is a real video. And she got plastic surgery. I always thought the people meditating just had it all together. Now, I know I need to do a little yoga, some Pilates, or meditate or something, because it's good for you, okay? It calms the brain, especially once we're, always sitting here scrolling TikTok or always stressed out. You're supposed to be stretching. You're supposed to be meditating. I feel like the people that meditate and exercise and do all this stuff every day, I just have this thought that they have it all together. So when I heard about the yoga teacher murder, I was very surprised. And the details of the case were even more shocking. The first thing that I heard about the yoga teacher murder was her trying to escape while in custody on video in her prison jumpsuit, her striped prison jumpsuit. Once I dove into more details of it, I don't know. I'm going to let NBC tell you the first part of this case, and I'll chime in with everything that I know.
Anna Mariah Wilson was a rising star in the world of off-road cycling.
This is Mariah Wilson.
This morning, new details of the last moments of her life captured on audio.
Those screams are followed by 2 gunshots. One to the front of the head, one to the side of the head.
Prosecutors in opening statements portraying her accused killer, Caitlin Armstrong, as a woman consumed by jealousy.
This is Caitlin Armstrong. Prior to this, she was dating a guy named Colin, who she was absolutely obsessed with. And for a brief period of time, Mo, who was also a cyclist, Colin was also a cyclist, she very briefly dated Colin. It wasn't like that serious, but they had a good relationship, they had a good rapport, and they stayed friends. Caitlin didn't like this, but it just feels like it wasn't even that serious. She was just consumed with jealousy.
One of the things you'll hear is she was not happy with this relationship. Colin.
Not happy, authorities say, after discovering she and Wilson were romantically involved with the same man, professional cyclist Colin Strickland.
And that's Colin. We'll talk more about Colin in a minute.
Prosecutors say Armstrong tracked Wilson's location using a fitness app, and that surveillance footage puts her Jeep near the apartment where Wilson was staying. According to a police affidavit, investigators also received an anonymous tip after the shooting that Armstrong said months earlier she was so angry she wanted to kill Wilson.
Now, the anonymous tip is really interesting because I'm not sure if this will get confirmed in the court case, but Caitlin's ex-friend testified later in court that there was one evening when Mo was still alive that Caitlin was talking to her about how angry she was that Mo and Colin were dating. And her friend, Nicole, they're in this diner in Austin, Texas called The Meteor. Nicole asked her, okay, well, I mean, you sound really mad, but what are you going to do about it? And Caitlin said, I'll kill her. Later, after the murders, which by the way, I don't know if you caught that, the surveillance footage picked up Caitlin's black Jeep on camera at a neighbor's house before a scream and 2 gunshots went off. And Mo was shot twice. I know that already sounds pretty damning, but it gets much worse. After that happened and the police find Mo and she's been deceased, that's when this anonymous caller calls in and is like, hey, Caitlin has actually been talking about killing her for quite a while.
Armstrong, who has pleaded not guilty, now facing decades behind bars if convicted of first-degree murder. Her defense team arguing there is no proof she committed the crime.
You did not hear about any direct evidence showing Caitlin Armstrong is responsible for this crime, because there isn't any.
Armstrong's legal team also battling accusations she fled the country after the murder and underwent plastic surgery to disguise her identity. Authorities say she used her sister's passport to travel to Costa Rica. A warrant was issued for her arrest, setting off a 43-day manhunt.
While in Costa Rica,
Wait, where's
She
the?
searched
Hold on,
her name.
you gotta look at this video.
from her cell phone. News article.
Just weeks ago, this cell phone video appearing to show Armstrong trying to escape, running from corrections officers while at a dock.
This video is unbelievable to me. This is one of the most unbelievable pieces of the entire case. Let me dial it back just a little bit. Caitlin Armstrong is a yoga teacher. She briefly dated Colin, a cyclist. Colin later broke up with Caitlin and briefly started dating this woman named Mariah, or Mo. Colin and Mo were not super together, but still hanging out sometimes. And Caitlin Armstrong was incredibly jealous. I mean, consumed with jealousy over Mo when the relationship really wasn't that serious. And, you know, obviously we're going into BOZE conspiracy land for this. I find a lot of times when we're dealing with insane jealousy like that, it usually has to do with one person, maybe Caitlin, feeling extreme inadequacy, feeling like, why am I not enough? Feeling like, why not me? Why am I being replaced? And these feelings are so strong. Maybe they come from childhood or something. She never learned how to deal with feeling like she's not enough. She never learned how to deal with feeling like she might be replaceable or inadequate. Like, this is actually probably a bigger wound than what's happening in the current moment. But it's like everything from the past all piles up, all of that unresolved feeling of inadequacy piles up into this moment. And it's like,
I can't handle this. I'm just going to kill the thing that's making me feel this way.
so she starts stalking her activity over the next couple of weeks. There was one instance where she saw Mo come into a diner and her friends noticed that Caitlin was irrationally angry. Like, it was a scary type of anger. On the day of the murder, this was in May, Caitlin Armstrong ended up stalking Mo's location through a cycling app called Strava. It was something that Mo was using to just share with other cyclists her bike paths. Just, hey, this is a good route. Here's how I felt about this route this day. That's what it was for. It was like a cyclist social media. Caitlin ends up getting a hold of the last stop on Mo's cyclist app. That's pretty much where she lived. Dude, this is where this story gets really weird. So that day, she goes to her house and it's at night, but one of the neighbors' security cameras picks up Caitlin Armstrong's black Jeep pulling up to the house. There's 2 gunshots right before you hear Mo scream, and then the black Jeep, license plates and all, pulls off of the camera. Immediately after this happened, everybody starts looking at Caitlin Armstrong because she was being mad weird and she was angry. She hated Mo. A lot of people, especially in the community, they knew about the crazy ex-girlfriend. So the police question Caitlin right away. The same day that she gets questioned, she goes down to Austin, like South Austin, Texas, and she sells her black Jeep to CarMax for $12,000. They take the car and they give her a check. The murder was on May 11th, and then the questioning was the next day. And by May 14th, Caitlin Armstrong was then on a plane headed from Houston to New York City. She gets to New York and the investigators, they're looking for her because this is their top suspect. They can't find her. They start searching all of the flight paths that are leaving New York City because that's the last location they had for her, and they can't find her on any of the logs at all. They start to search the surveillance footage in the airport, and they see Caitlin Armstrong on the security cameras boarding a plane to Costa Rica. But they look through the logs for the flight to Costa Rica and Caitlin Armstrong's name is not on the list. They find out that she had taken her sister's passport and then flew to Costa Rica. She was already their number 1 suspect, but within 3 days, she had fled the country. She sold the car and then fled the country, which, like, I mean, the car and the gunshot on the surveillance video is like definitely enough proof, but then the fleeing the country gets crazy. But this gets even crazier. She leaves and the authorities know that she has fled to Costa Rica. So they alert the authorities in Costa Rica and they say, hey, we're looking for a murder suspect. Guess where they said that Caitlin was going to be? They put out an all points bulletin to every yoga studio pretty much in this area in Costa Rica. It's somewhere near the airport because she can't get too far. They put out an all points bulletin to all the yoga studios because they're like, well, she's going to need to work eventually. It was difficult for them to find Caitlin Armstrong because she took the $12,000 from selling her Jeep and she got plastic surgery. This is what she looked like before with her driver's license photo on the left. And then on the right is what she looked like after her surgery. The lengths this woman went to get away with this murder. It is cold. So they're out looking for this lady. And even though she does look slightly different, she's a white woman that teaches yoga that doesn't really know her way around Costa Rica and just got here. Like, she kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. Their idea that she would have to work eventually and would go to a yoga studio was correct because they eventually find handwritten logs of the same name that she used on the fake passport logging in to teach classes at a studio in Costa Rica. They pick her up. And it doesn't really look like her, but it's her. She's got bandages on her face and some bruising. She said it happened from a nasty fall.
Why the you lying? Why you always lying?
Well, later, when they check a lockbox that was found inside of her home, they found a literal receipt for cosmetic surgery for $6,300. She had enough money to get down to Costa Rica, enough for some plastic surgery. I mean, this is like out of a movie. While she was there, she had a little bit of a life. There was a guy that she met at a bar, and I guess she was interested in him. They actually tracked down that guy and did a little interview with him because they were like, hey, what was Caitlin like 1 month after she killed who she perceived to be a rival love interest?
Well, Caitlin, I know her as Ari. Don't really know Caitlin or the...
That was the name she went by, Ari.
Ari was a strange person, but I met her right outside the tattoo shop, Good Life Tattoos, and her friends were getting tattooed, so she was waiting out there on the bench, and I was out there having a beer in the lounge, and it became apparent to me that she was trying to have a conversation, trying to get to know me. Ooh. So then I started talking to her more and more, and then we ended up sharing numbers, and we're gonna hang out later, and we ended up hanging out a bunch of times later. And we went on a couple dates, but she said that she had just been through a real traumatizing breakup.
Can you imagine going on a date with somebody and later finding out they had just killed someone a month earlier and they had the audacity to call it a traumatizing breakup? He broke up with you a year prior to this.
She wanted to go out at different places. We went out to a bunch of different spots, but most of the time she wanted to kind of be a secluded spot. Not a lot of people.
Ooh.
And I didn't put any of it together. You wouldn't imagine it, but after it all happened, went by, and you hear what she was really doing and running from, it made sense why she didn't want to be seen, why she wanted to go to real secluded places, and it all kind of made a little more sense. They were using the old pictures, and I was like, oh, I don't know her. But then afterwards, they did the updates of the pictures of when she had her face lift or face change.
She looked different for Florida. She don't look different for being in Costa Rica and being new. Nah, we would have known. So by the end of June, the authorities had captured Caitlin, finally. And that is exactly what led up to the video we saw earlier. Now, when Caitlin was in jail, she wasn't in jail for that long. So people didn't know her super well or know what her normal patterns were. But people said that leading up to this video that we're about to look at again, she'd been going to the gym a lot. Now, I don't know if she was just keeping up with her regular yoga routine or if she was prepping for her grand escape. I physically cannot believe that this is a real video.
Obtained by KXAN appears to show accused killer Caitlin Armstrong trying to outrun corrections officers in South Austin.
That's right, Caitlin, Beetlejuice suit and all, attempted to scale a 6-foot wall to get away from officers.
Here she is in black and white.
I can't believe
and
this
she
is
even
real.
tries to scale a wall.
I
It
can't
all
believe
happened
this is
around 8
real.
this morning as Armstrong was being escorted from a doctor's appointment. And this comes after Armstrong successfully slipped out of the country once before.
Back to the court case, because that's what's happening right now. Reminding you of just some baseline evidence that I thought was really interesting about this case. 1, Caitlin had an unusual amount of photos of Mo saved to her phone. Could just be a jealous ex. 2, Nicole Mertz, the former friend of Caitlin, she was the one that later told the court on the witness stand that when she asked Caitlin what she was going to do about Mo because she was so angry about it, Caitlin said, "I'm going to kill her." It's not good. It's not looking good. She said it weeks, months before the murder. Then the prosecution was able to prove that Caitlin had access to the cycling app Bike Path that Mo had shared earlier on social media, and that the final destination was also where Mo was killed. And this was publicly available information on the app. And of course, the neighbors showed the security camera of Caitlin's black Jeep pulling up, the gunshots firing, the scream, and then her leaving. She also sold the Jeep the very next day. And if that's not enough for you, the bullet casings also matched Caitlin Armstrong's 9mm pistol.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb.
Now, the trial is still ongoing. It's still ongoing, so I can't really say anything. But I leave that to you, if you're like me. I'm curious. What's Colin's involvement in all of this? What does Colin think of all of this? When I first heard about this case, I kind of had a thread of sympathy of like maybe Colin just decided that Caitlin wasn't for him. She was a little crazy and he really liked Mo and he started talking to her. Maybe he's just been dragged into all of this. Maybe he feels really, really guilty that this happened to Mo. Maybe he feels survivor's guilt. He feels like this is his fault, you know? I looked at this video and I'm like, Colin's not the most mature person I've ever seen either.
Strickland was dating both women. Just released text messages from the suspect show her growing jealousy. "I know you know better than to show up with that girl," she warned her boyfriend just before a bike racing event. He snapped back, "Could you please be an adult?" After she reached out to Mo Wilson, Strickland texted, "Did you call Mo?" She taunted back, "Send my love to Mo."
That's creepy.
Strickland responded, "Can you please stop?"
These were major pieces of evidence in this love triangle turned murder, according to the state. And they were really showing the relationship and how fearful the man at the center of it all, Colin Strickland, was if Caitlin Armstrong found out that he had been texting another woman.
Following the murder, Caitlin Armstrong fled the country, underwent plastic surgery, allegedly to...
This is crazy! This is insane! What? I can't get over this.
Change her appearance and hid in Costa Rica before she was tracked down. Strickland testified for 2 days and made his way through a gauntlet of photographers.
This is what I thought was
He
weird.
appears to elbow and kick one photographer, and then he goes out of his way to stomp on this guy's foot.
Ouch!
Is it just me or is that like also not... That's a really weird behavior from Colin too. Like, what? Yeah, that guy did textbook say, "Youch!"
Yeah, sure, step aside, kid. We're not.
The trial's still going on. I can't technically say too much. But if you've been watching my channel for a while, or maybe if you feel like we're pretty aligned given what I've said, you probably know exactly what I'm thinking about this. That's all I'm going to say.